portal to the universe. You are listening to Risale Podcasts.
Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're getting into something pretty fundamental, aren't we?
We really are. It's that big question. Where do we actually find, real happiness, lasting peace of mind?
Exactly. And we're going to explore this through the lens of the Risale-i collection by Bediüzzaman Said Nursi. You share these writings with us, and they're quite profound reflections on faith, belief.
Very much so. They dive deep into understanding the divine and our connection to it.
So many people are searching for that happiness, that ease. So this deep dive is really about exploring Bediüzzaman's perspective from the Risale-i Nur on where those things truly lie.
Precisely. He offers a path rooted in belief in God and Islam as the source of that inner calm we all seek.
Okay, let's jump in then. One of the first things the Risale-i Nur seems to address is why chasing worldly things often leaves us feeling, unsatisfied.
That's definitely a starting point for Bediüzzaman. He talks about how the world, the material stuff, it's inherently limited, it's temporary. There's a line in The Flashes, I think it captures it perfectly. He says, the world, narrow and transitory as it is, cannot satisfy the limitless desires of man.
Limitless desires, finite world. That's the mismatch.
Exactly. If what we truly long for is infinite, how can finite things ever really fill that void? Bediüzzaman suggests, we need to look beyond just the here and now.
And when the Risale-i Nur talks about looking beyond, the descriptions are pretty incredible. Paradise described as immense, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely vivid. In The Flashes, it mentions a 500-year paradise just for one person, and 70,000 palaces and houris, things like that. Yeah. The point being perfect satisfaction for everyone.
So the implication is that the usual reasons for competing, for feeling envious, they just dissolve.
That's the logic presented. Bediüzzaman argues that scarcity in this world fuels rivalry. But if you shift your focus to the afterlife described in the Risale-i Nur, where there's boundless abundance,
then why compete?
Exactly. Why fight over a drop when there's an ocean waiting? It kind of reframes all that striving and jealousy.
It really does make you pause and think about daily stresses differently. Okay, so moving on, the Risale-i Nur also really emphasizes how belief acts as a support system, especially when things get tough.
Yes, a huge theme. Belief in God as a rock, a point of support in the face of life's, inevitable challenges.
There's a specific example he gives?
There is. In The Flashes, he describes this powerful experience he had in a graveyard.
Okay.
Realizing the impermanence of everything could have been crushing, right? But he found solace, real comfort in the Quran.
And was there a particular verse that stood out?
Yes, a really powerful one. For us, God suffices, and he is the best disposer of affairs. And the Risale-i Nur explains how truly believing this, submitting to God's wisdom with sincerity. That's where deep peace comes from.
So it's belief and submission leading to peace.
And it actually transforms what we even consider a pleasure. Bediüzzaman writes that true pleasure is found exactly and in more perfect form in the immortality of the enduring one. And in affirming God, believing, submitting.
Finding joy in the eternal, not just the temporary. That's a powerful shift.
It really is. It's about finding that solid ground.
And the Risale-i Nur collection also talks a lot about sincerity, doesn't it? The intention behind our actions.
Oh, hugely important in Bediüzzaman's view. Purity of intention, aiming purely for God's pleasure. He actually links a lack of sincerity directly to problems.
How so?
Well, in The Flashes, there's this quote. So, O people of truth given to dispute and afflicted with disaster, it is through your loss of sincerity and your failure to make God's pleasure your sole aim that you have caused the people of truth to undergo this humiliation and defeat.
Wow, so he's saying insincerity or aiming for worldly things instead of God's pleasure has real negative consequences, even for the community.
That's the argument. When the goal is God's pleasure, not personal gain or recognition, it changes everything. He points out, especially in matters of faith, rivalry is misplaced.
Because the rewards are infinite anyway.
Exactly. Like we said about paradise, it's not a limited resource. One person's reward doesn't take away from another's, so the focus should be internal on that sincere connection.
Okay, this connects to something else in The Flashes that might seem, surprising. The idea that illness can sometimes be a divine bounty.
Yes, that's definitely a perspective that can challenge how we usually think about suffering.
How does he explain that?
Bediüzzaman suggests that illness can actually act as a kind of spiritual wake-up call. It can make people stop, think more about the hereafter, maybe turn away from heedlessness.
Turn towards God more.
Right. He even writes, addressing someone ill, "Brother, I am not opposed to this illness of yours. Try to be patient until the illness awakens you completely."
So the potential for spiritual growth within the suffering.
That's the idea. Through belief, patience, submission, relying on God. The Risale suggests even a severe illness can become, in his words, exceedingly cheap. It loses its power to completely break you.
Finding meaning within it through faith.
Exactly.
And speaking of hard times, what about loneliness or exile?
Yeah.
Does the Risale address finding comfort then?
It does, quite beautifully in what's called the 23rd remedy in the Flashes.
Okay.
Bediüzzaman acknowledges that human compassion is valuable, of course, but it can never truly replace the support of the all-compassionate creator.
It points back to God's nature.
Yes, reminding us of those first attributes in the Quran, the merciful and the compassionate, and how we see signs of that mercy everywhere in creation.
So connecting with God fills that void.
That's the essence. The Risale explains that when a believer truly recognizes God, turns to him, beseeches him, that connection attracts God's infinite mercy. And that mercy, it says, takes the place of everything.
So true loneliness, in this view, isn't being physically alone,
but being disconnected from God.
Yeah.
For the believer, that connection provides constant companionship, even in exile.
This theme keeps coming up, this idea of an ordered, purposeful universe pointing towards God.
Yes, it's central. Bediüzzaman frequently uses the intricate order and balance in creation as, well, evidence. Evidence of a knowing, powerful, caring creator.
Is there an analogy he uses for that?
There's one in the Flashes about a soldier who has different ranks, different duties, different relationships.
Okay.
And he uses that to illustrate how everything in the universe, absolutely everything, from the rotations of the suns to the spinning and turning of minute particles, it all operates under divine will.
All part of a single coherent plan.
Exactly. The Risale emphasizes that all striving and motion in the universe turns on the law of divine determining and proceeds from the hand of divine power.
And this points directly to
the necessary existence of the pre-eternal all-powerful one, as Bediüzzaman puts it. The order itself is testimony.
Right. Now, this powerful present God. There's another really interesting idea in the Flashes about how connecting to him actually brings ease, empowerment even.
Ah, yes, the analogy of connection. It's quite insightful.
How does that go?
Bediüzzaman compares it to, say, plugging in a device. You connect to the main power grid, right? And suddenly your little device has access to immense power.
Okay, I get that.
So, similarly, he argues, by attributing things to God, by connecting to him, even seemingly weak things gain immense capability through his command.
So things like ants, flies, seas.
Yes, he mentions them. An ant, through its connection to God's command, could metaphorically demolish the pharaoh's palace. It's about the power access through that connection.
So dependence on God isn't weakness here, it's the source of strength.
Precisely. The Risale contrasts this with the struggle and limitation that comes from trying to go it alone, attributing power only to oneself or to, material causes. True ease comes from that reliance.
That's a powerful image. Okay, throughout this discussion, the Quran keeps coming up. Its role seems absolutely central in the Risale-i collection.
Oh, completely central. It's presented as the ultimate source of truth, the ultimate guide to understanding reality and finding that inner peace we've been talking about.
How is its power described?
Well, in the Risale-i itself is described as proceeding from the Quran's effulgence, its light. And it says the Risale-i, using the diamond sword of the Quran, has basically refuted even the strongest deniers.
So the Quran holds the ultimate answers.
That's the perspective. It's seen as the key that unlocks the mysteries of existence. The Words, another part of the collection, talks about the Quran solving the talisman of the universe and riddle of creation.
Providing answers reason alone can't fully reach. About the unseen, the hereafter.
Exactly. It offers that comprehensive framework for understanding everything and finding peace within that understanding.
So if we were to try and summarize the core message from this deep dive into the Risale-i collection regarding happiness and peace, what would it be?
I think, in essence, Bediüzzaman, through the Risale-i makes a really strong case that true lasting happiness and peace aren't found primarily in the material world, which is limited,
Right.
but rather they are deeply, fundamentally tied to belief in God, to connecting with the divine, following the path of Islam. It's about finding solace in that connection during tough times, understanding the importance of sincerity, seeing the purpose in creation, and ultimately finding guidance in the Quran. That's where real contentment lies, according to this perspective.
It definitely offers a profound alternative to the constant chase for worldly satisfaction. A lot to reflect on there.
Absolutely.
For more information, read the Risale Nurse collection. And it may be a final thought for everyone listening. Consider how shifting your own focus, seeking that connection Bediüzzaman describes, might change how you experience happiness and ease in your own life based on these insights.
You have listened to the Risale Nur podcasts, Portal to the Universe. For more, please visit risalenurtv.com/podcasts. Goodbye.